I think we're live now. Ladies and gentlemen, bonjour and welcome on Frenchly. Thank you for joining us. We're about to dive today into the heart of the Parisian real estate market. But before we start, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge our audience. A warm welcome to all the followers of Frenchly, the leading digital platform for American Francophiles. Your love for French culture and lifestyle is real, and it is your interest and enthusiasm that fuels events like this one. I am thrilled to introduce our expert today, Melissa Regan from MR Agency Real Estate. She has helped countless clients navigate the intricacies of this unique Parisian real estate market and is here today to share her expertise and experience with us. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Frankie. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you today. Hello to the audience.
The pleasure is ours. During this 1 hour webinar, we will learn about the real estate market of Paris, one of the world's most coveted cities. We aim to demystify the process of buying property in Paris, particularly for our American audience. Melissa will provide key insights about the market trends, property types, neighborhoods, along with detailing the significant differences between buying property in Paris versus the United States. Further, Melissa will shed light on the invaluable role of a real estate agent in Paris and share some inspiring success stories that underline the joy and reward of owning property in the City of Lights. We will also have a Q&A session where Melissa will be answering your questions that I encourage you to send me along this session. The real estate market in Paris in 2023. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, both for that introduction and again for the honor to be among you. So should I start by sharing my screen?
Please, please.
Okay, great. So first and foremost, nice to meet you all. I am a native Californian and I have been in Paris now for almost 25 years. So I have lived more of my life now on this side of the world than in the United States. And I run several different agencies and businesses, real estate being the key aspect of what I've done over here over this time. And it's a pleasure to share this with you. So let me just share my screen and get into the details.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Can everyone see?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Okay, so, I'm a multi-entrepreneur. I started both in finance, moved to fashion, and then that became event venue management here in the City of Lights. So what I did was first become an investor myself, meaning that I both rented and purchased residential and commercial property for event usage. So my event company has worked with all the major companies from around the world, such as Samsung, Chanel, Hermes, Sony, pretty much everyone that wants to host and put on an event in Paris has come through one of our venues. And this personal experience as a foreigner of buying, selling, renting, breaking leases came with an incredible plethora of knowledge of navigating this world over here. And I first had clients one after the other that would say, can you help us buy pied-à-terre? So we would do so. And in 2021, we officialized those services. And since then, we have helped a number of individuals and companies from around the world. So far as our services, what do we do for property? We do property hunting, property selling, and relocation. So what does that mean so far as relocation? I will take one after another. Relocation is where we help professionals or individuals who want to come to France and typically rent for a temporary basis. So that could be for 6 months up to 2 years. For relocation, we are actually one of the 5 companies in France that have a contract with the government. Welcome to the French Tech, where we actually help facilitate professionals coming under a special visa program. Property selling, that's pretty simple, and property hunting. So property hunting is really where we bring a lot of value to foreign individuals, because as a foreigner, you need to both find the property, but then, how do you get the right property in front of you? Really being able to rely upon one partner and one company to bring you all the market that matches your need and your request. Okay. So that's just a little overview of what we do. The market, as Frankie said, obviously Paris is a destination sought after from individuals around the world. You know, it is one of the meccas of tourism. You know, Paris is always a good idea. France is always a good idea. Just in 2022, you know, we saw an increase of 65% of foreign buyers. Of that, 21% being American. The attractivity for foreign investment in France has just skyrocketed. You know, have you ever heard of the program Choose France, for example, where you have the global leaders in industry and in tech coming to France? They meet in Versailles one time a year to plummet and to really encourage French investment. So to give an idea, the market in 2023, so the price per square meter, the median has been about 10,000, and you know, investment projects across the country have increased by 3.5 billion. Okay, so that gives an idea of just the general market.
Interesting.
Okay, and if you look between 2002 and 2022, you know, you have 115% increase in residential property value. Okay, so, you know, France and specifically Paris is not just a good idea, it's a safe haven for investment. When you compare the average residential property price with other capitals across the world, you know, Hong Kong, London, New York, Tokyo, Paris is still on the upward trend. And we've seen that, you know, since 2002. Okay, I'm not sure how familiar each of you are who are participating today with the different neighborhoods of Paris. So, you know, we help clients across the country, but obviously Paris is the capital. This is where there is the most amount of interest, and this is where our offices are based. So I would definitely say that we have a core competency for the city. For those of you who don't know, Paris is a little bit of an escargot, so in snail, starting with the first arrondissement and turning its way around all the way to the 20th. It's sometimes a bit unusual for someone who's less familiar to know that you could go from the 3rd to the 11th or the 5th to the 13th. And when you look at this map, you can see it more clearly. It's the escargot going around. Okay. So what is important to note is average prices and really what you can get for your money in these different neighborhoods. So on the right hand of the screen, you're going to see just some of the key figures. Okay, so you can also read those for yourself, but you can really see what are the most sought after neighborhoods. You know, the 3rd, which is in the Marais, is very trendy. It's been extremely up and coming over the past 20 years. You know, average is 14,000 euros per square meter, high is 21,000. For conversions, on the bottom, you'll see square meter versus square feet. So, you know, it's kind of like 1.1 if you want to do a general calculation in your head. Then you go to Rivbourg, Saint-Germain, 6th, 7th. I mean, look at those prices there. They're getting up to 30,000, 41,000 per square meter. Okay. 16th and 17th get out to the west side of the city. And there the prices can tend to come a little bit back down. Now, why? Why is there so much fluctuation neighborhood by neighborhood? Let's take you through that. Hold on. Voila. Okay. So here we are. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We would consider this the key, you know, center of Paris. What are the key drivers in this neighborhood? Obviously, some of the historical sites, the Louvre, Place Vendôme. It is an area that is known for history, so historical, dynamic, artistic. So the Marais is in the 3rd and the 4th. This was a typical, very bohemian chic area, and it is now the epicenter of the contemporary art world. You know, you have Galerie Perrotin, Thaddeus Repouque. You have everyone on Rue de Turenne and in that vicinity. It's really the bustling, happening place to be. And with that has come an elegance. You know, if you look around Place de Vosges, the historical court, that's in the Marais also. The 1st and the 2nd, you have really extremely luxurious properties, private mansions, Plaza Concorde, Rue Saint-Honoré. These are all keywords that I'm sure you've heard before, especially if you're with us today. So the center, Rive Gauche. So Rive Gauche has its own identity and way of living. Obviously, we've highlighted here Café Flore. This was the center of the literary world, luxury. You know, when you look at Yves Saint Laurent, Rive Gauche, and also the antique world. So all of the major antique dealers and antique galleries worldwide are located in Rive Gauche. Okay, so Rive Gauche, the 6th, is one of the most expensive areas in the city. It's where you're going to see the most high ticket values, chic, trendy neighborhoods. You can live walking, you know, by foot, which is the way of life over here. The church, you know, the famous church at Saint-Germain. Writers, painters, sculptors, musicians. This is where it all started. Okay. So I didn't have it in the law. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. The 8th, the 16th, and the 17th. You know, when you're thinking and contemplating what would be the right area of the city for you, it's really a matter of your personal way of life, also your level of comfort with, again, people, crowds, what you want to be able to access when you just go out of your apartment door. The 8th and the 6th and the 17th are definitely known to be very family friendly, larger properties. You get a little bit more for your buck, in essence, elegant. The streets are larger, parking is a little bit easier. It's a different way of life, but it's not in all areas of the 8th, 6th, 16th, or 17th that you're going to be able to just walk down from your pied-à-terre, pick up a baguette, and go to a little bistro. It's a little bit, it's a little bit more calm, more office buildings also. Okay, and obviously Haussmannian. So Haussmannian style is very well known as the architecture in this part of the city, and that is due to the architect Haussmann, who actually created Avenue Friedland, part of Champs-Élysées. So that's where this architecture is the most well known for. Okay, so now we go into what I want to take you through. What does the buying process look like in Paris or in France? Okay, so purchasing property is very different, as you can imagine. In the US, it's a very quick process, and it's a private agreement, you know, done between parties, typically the actual agents. Here in France, it's much more legalistic, and there's much more steps to the process. So in generality, the things you need to know is that it's a 2-step process between the signature of a promissory note and the signature of a final deed. So what that means is when actually you sign a promissory note, you go to a notary. Well, you first obviously have an offer. The offer is accepted. Once that is accepted, then the documents go to a notary. We work with incredibly and wonderful trusted notaries who are bilingual and who've both studied law in the United States, and they're really able to help our clients walk through that process with us. But what they do is they actually edit a contract, which is a promissory note, which outlines all the parts of the purchase, okay, of the sale. However, there's a lapse of time between these 2 agreements. During that lapse of time, you as the buyer, so at the signature of the promissory note, you are required to put a certain amount of the purchase price into an escrow account, okay? The owner has to make a promise to sell you the property under the terms of that agreement. So imagine after the promise, someone comes to the owner and offers them double the price. They cannot legally accept it. They are legally bound to sell that property to you under the terms of the agreement, okay? You, as the buyer, you actually can choose to walk away at any point between the promissory note and the final deed. However, you risk and you would lose your 10% escrow that was put into the account. Okay, so that's if you just choose to walk away. Another aspect is if your purchase is contingent upon financing. So that does happen, a little bit less for foreign buyers. But if your purchase is contingent upon financing, then you might have a get out clause if you were not able to obtain your financing, which means that both parties could walk away. Okay. What else can I tell you here that's very important? At this point, it's very important to know also that the purchase price that you see includes both the net to the owner, agency fees, and then when you go to this next step at the notary is when French taxes and legal fees are put on top. Okay, so they're very intricate to be calculated. They're actually calculated upon the year that the building was built, the exact, even the street it's on, and it can even be contingent on your financing and your purchasing of the property. So it's extremely precise, and it's only done by the notary. But what we aim to advise our clients is to account for 7% of the property value to be in addition to the fee, accounting for taxes and legal fees. Okay, and these are to be paid at the time of the final deed. Okay, I'm sure you guys are all going to have questions on this, and we can get back to it when we get to Q&As. The role of a real estate agent. So here you see me again in the center and some members of my team. We are not strictly feminine, but we definitely have quite a few wonderful, powerful, interesting women on the team. Okay, so what is important to me and what I aim to achieve and what we do achieve is to be different than the typical real estate agent. So for me, a typical real estate agent sells you a property. So meaning that if you're over in Paris, for example, on a trip, on vacation, you maybe walk into an actual agency on the street. You might walk into, some of the main ones such as Sotheby's, Barnes, these common names that we all know. That's great. My husband even works in one of those big companies for the past 20 years. But what they do is they're going to sell you a specific listing. And what we aim to do is we actually take you in hand so that the entire process runs as smoothly as possible. So what we do is that we actually do a selection of properties all across the market that are adapted to what you're looking for. So for example, if, based on your age, the number of children you may or may not have, the number of grandchildren you want to see to come visit, how often you're going to be in the city, if you're going to be having a car, not a car, all these take into account which neighborhood would be the best adapted for you. So you might have some ideas based on who you are and how you've explained yourself. We might have additional ideas. So step one for us is scanning the market, bringing to you a pre-selection of adapted properties. Then we know that you're typically not here with us on a daily basis. So, we need to pre-visit for you. So we do the pre-visits. We actually get out on the ground for you. We do the virtual visits with you. And then when you do come, we accompany you. So as early as today, we were with a client, he wanted to, in a 3-hour period, see the 8 properties that were adapted. So, we take a private car with you and we do one after the other, provide you with a booklet so that you can write notes, take photos, and really are there to exchange with you. The difference also for us is when you walk into just a real estate agency on the street, well, they can only sell you a property. When you work with us, we're going to be able to make sure that the right property is with you, no matter what listing agent it comes from. So that's a really big difference for us. Then we do the property due diligence. So, when there was an extra skylight added in the bathroom of that great property we just saw, was there a valid permit? Are the inspections up to par? Typically, depending on your level of French, there might be things you can understand, but this gets very technical. So it's nice to be able to lead upon a team that can walk you through that and do that due diligence for you. We oversee the legal and notarial process. So as I mentioned before, notaries have such a key role in today's transactions. So a notary is a legal function that doesn't exactly exist in the US. It's a type of lawyer, but here all property transactions must go through a notary. And it's a government appointed, well, it's not government appointed, it's a government authorized function. Okay. And there's not one that can cost more than another. All notaries cost the same thing to the end buyer. Okay. It's really a matter of who you choose to work with and who's going to help push that along. In today's world, a notary can make or break a purchase. If you're with someone that no one can reach on the telephone, that doesn't respond to your emails, you're not getting the responses you need, you don't understand certain aspects, it can completely, it can make a deal crumble. It can make a dream crumble. And in the same way, being surrounded by the right legal, notary, and advisors makes it possible. So that's really important for us. Another thing that, I'm not sure how detailed we want to get in on this, but you also have the choice as the buyer to buy under your personal name or to use a real estate holding company vehicle. So that over here is called an SCI. So Societe, so it's an acronym for an actual company name, which means real estate holding company. And that means that you own shares of the company, but the company actually owns the property. Now, we'll get a little bit more in this as we go forward in the success stories, but where this can be interesting, there's several case studies, and we actually have a whole article on our website about this. It can be for passing down property through generations and have tax advantages. Another very large advantage that we've seen with some of our foreign clients is some of our foreign clients, and especially Americans, as Americans, they cannot obtain financing. So, it's a challenging topic. Myself, as an American, Melissa Regan, I've had trouble getting financing for a lot of my property deals, but having a French SCI means that it's not Melissa Regan obtaining financing. It means it's the French company, which has French paperwork that is seeking financing. So sometimes a French real estate holding company can also be a vehicle for foreigners in order to open up that door of local financing. Okay, case by case, of course, but we'll get into that in one of our success stories. We also facilitate the logistics, transfer funds. So again, it depends obviously on each level of the client, but it might be the first time that you're making a transfer of 800,000, 3 million, across continents. How can you obtain the best and most optimal exchange rate? How can you ensure that the funds are in the notary's account by the time of signing? If for some reason you've gone through your local bank and you filled out a transfer request form, it's possible that 2 or 3 weeks later, the funds have not arrived. If the funds have not arrived, then the final deed cannot legally close. So, that's an issue too. So we work with a great partner who has the best rates that we've ever seen and can ensure same day receipt of funds within the French notaries. So that's huge. Power of attorney. That's a question we get frequently. Possibly between the two notaries, the final deed has been set for 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. What happens if you're in California? Well, 9 a.m. in California could almost work because it's midnight. But what happens if you're in Chicago, you're in Texas? You might not physically be able to be on the call in Zoom. So we provide power of attorney services and also loan brokers who work with foreigners. What happens after you've actually closed the deal? You've bought your property. That's great. What about home and fire insurance? What happens if you have a leak, if you have a fire? So we ensure that you are insured in the right way and with the right partners. And you might be seeking property management after purchase. One, just to ensure that someone comes to your apartment 1 time a week, flushes the toilets, make sure that everything is maintained. You might also be seeking a revenue stream. You might be interested in actually renting it out on a short-term basis. How would you do that from a distance? So we provide all of those services. So for me, the real thing here is the role of a real estate agent is obviously selling you a property, but I would say the role of us as agents goes far, far beyond. And now it's my pleasure to share 4 success stories with you. So we've taken the liberty to highlight very different case scenarios and very different types of properties. Our services, although I definitely see them as bespoke and very high level, we work with all different types of case scenarios. So you'll see the different price points, the different things we've done here. So I'll start with Howard and Cindy. So accomplished American couple who were looking for an alternative to hotels. So frequently they would stay at Cheval Blanc, at Hotel Coste. They definitely knew a lot about Paris, restaurants, going out. And they were seeking, what if their high school and college stage children were interested in doing a semester abroad, studying over here. So we worked with them for months, pre-selections of properties, pre-visits. And what we ended up being able to bring to them was incredible. A fully renovated, fully furnished property on Ile Saint-Louis. So Ile Saint-Louis is incredible, one of the most historical, it's in the center, it's in the very center of Paris. And all they had to do was arrive with their toothbrushes. And in addition, this property came with a concierge service, came with all of the renovation was insured for a 10-year period. So it came really with the security that they were looking for and the level of comfort that they were looking for. Air conditioning, heated floors, bathrooms for every bedroom. So just, that level of, I would say, of precision that we have in the United States that we don't always find in Paris with the crickety floors. Okay, so that's one. And now we go to a completely separate, here, a property of very different value. So here, 550,000, excluding all fees, 50,000 square meters, a 1-bedroom, newly renovated, also ready to just walk into. And here, so Delphine is a French expat living in New York City, married to an American. They would travel in and out. They would stay at hotels, the same thing. And they were looking to buy pied-à-terre. They wanted to limit their investment. They wanted to have a property that they could rent out. The same thing for them. They ended up buying in the third, so in the Marais, but we looked in the first, second, third, and fourth for them. It was a several-month process, and it was a coup de cœur. There was another offer at the same time. And the advantage also, I guess I would say for us, and not always, but I would say yes, is a listing agent. They might have several offers coming in. They don't know the clients. They don't know their files. Sometimes the listing agents, they don't really even speak English. So, how are they going to know that Delphine and West are going to be a better buyer than Louis and Louise or Paul and Jeanette? So how are they going to push Delphine and West's offer over someone else's? Well, how they do that is with us. We are an additional service. We vet our clients' files beforehand. So in this case, they were almost getting squeezed out, and we were able to insure this property for them, basically with the quality of who our clients were, and them and the listing agent knowing that, again, if we're bringing them, that it's going to go through to the final deed. Okay. Success story. This was right off the block. Actually, this just happened yesterday, and I was so excited to send it because I was touched by this little photo. Completely different case also, Lisa and Jeremy. So this is a photo that they sent me last night from their new apartment where they were drinking champagne out of paper cups. So 2 American professionals who came to France under the Welcome to the French Tech Visa program, very intimidated by the cultural differences and looking for guidance through the process. So property owners, both investment and primary property in the US, they started visiting on their own. So they started visiting properties. They found a property they liked. They wanted to make an offer, and they went, what do we do next? And Lisa found me, I have some ideas how, recommendation, French tech, etc. She calls me and she goes, I think I want to buy an apartment. I don't know what to do next. So this was again by spoke. We didn't do even the property hunting for her. She wanted to ensure that the offer that they put in was legally binding. She wanted to ensure that the sellers would sell to them, which, in today's world, sellers really want to ensure that it's going to go to the end of the transaction, and that they're not going to have buyers that go to the promissory note, sign the promise, try to get financing, it falls through, and the seller has lost 5 months of their time that maybe was key for them for other financial reasons. So I got involved, our office got involved, and we saw this through. And what was great is that, we got them in contact with a local loan broker who, again, specializes with Americans. They wanted to obtain a certain level of financing that was a little bit readjusted. They chose to sell. So they did obtain financing for about 30% of the purchase price. They already had 30% in cash that was ready to go. And to go forward, they had a 30% difference that they needed to obtain. So they sold a small investment property in the States. We had to renegotiate the delays with the notary, with the sellers, with the broker. It was quite an intricate deal, and it took, 6 months, and they got their keys yesterday.
Wow.
Okay. And then the last one I want to show is that obviously I realize that this is an American panel, an American audience, but no matter where you might be from in the world, if you might be joining us today, we don't work exclusively with Americans, and people who do choose to work with us are for different reasons. Frank is a French politician who was looking for confidentiality. So, he didn't want to be going on all these visits, calling all these different listing brokers. He didn't want the world to know what his budget was, what his criteria were, maybe what his personal situation was. And he wanted to have one point of contact. Once you get your name in, and again, I want to be obviously respectful of our industry, but, once you start giving your name to brokers, they can keep emailing you or calling you nonstop, it might be inappropriate. So this is an example where we were really chosen, obviously, for our professionalism, but also for confidentiality. Okay. And so far as the property, this is also a very different case scenario. So here, full renovation needed. You see the bathroom, very outdated. You look at the property price also. So, 139 square meters, 2.24 million, Rue de Rivbourg, 2 bedrooms, need of renovation, an incredible view. Look at this monument. Okay. So once this is fully renovated, which it's currently under process now, it's going to be incredible. Okay. Center of Paris. So we chose those 4 just to really show you that, our services can apply to so many different cases. And I would say, as we are a family run, smaller bespoke agency, we can adapt to you. So, and how can we help you? So this presentation today has focused a bit primarily on the residential purchase, but that really isn't just all we do. So we help buying, selling, or renting apartments. And we also work with commercial spaces. So even, I'm touching a little success story in the middle, but the art gallery right there, this is a famous art gallery in Brussels and in Israel, De Veer Gallery. And I met them at Art Basel, and they wanted to open a gallery in Paris. So we opened a gallery for them. Well, and then what happened? Well, then he wanted to buy an apartment and then his mom wanted to buy an apartment too. So it's been our pleasure to be able to help them in all these different aspects. So again, if you are possibly interested in opening up an office for your business, renting an apartment for one of your children who are coming over for university, or buying an apartment yourself, these are all ways that we can help you. Okay, so I believe that along the way, we've gone over the key reasons to work with us, but of course, our team, we do have a slide. So, we're definitely multicultural, multilingual. So obviously linguistics is one, but that goes far and beyond. It's really to understand how you live, what is important to you, and how we can adapt. So we have Lebanese, Italian, Peruvian, obviously French, who else do we have on the team? Oh, UK. So, really our whole team is from around the world. And because I have personally been over here for over 25 years, and as I started with, investor myself, it's just the extent of our network is very strong. And the relationship we have with people is very close knit. So instead of, seen and announced and calling on a 01, which is a fixed line number. It's having direct relationships by text with the right people and making sure that our clients are well serviced. Okay. And I would definitely say that we're really, we're quite unique in being one of the few only independent agencies that work in this way. And our advisory capabilities to help you structure the purchase the best way legally and financially, and the relationships we have with banks and lawyers. Okay. So, Frankie, what are your thoughts? Where do you want to take it?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the expertise, the experience, the success stories, for the wow, you could be a guide in Paris. I'm telling you. I mean, you know the ins and outs of the City of Lights. It's really impressive. Actually, I was born in Paris, but I've been living in California for the last 16 years, and I can tell for sure that you know Paris better than me now. So that's a good thing. We have some Q&A. Let's do the Q&A now. We have several questions for
that
you.
Would be great. Hey, can you see me? I think I stopped sharing screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, we can see you. I wanted you to keep sharing a few minutes also from now on the slides, and specifically the last one when there is all the contact. That will give time to people to write your number, get everything, the email, all the different things, the website. So it's a good thing. First, beautiful. You can even scan if you want to get in touch directly with MR Agency. The first question is, could you elaborate on the differences between the most sought after neighborhoods in Paris? How does one decide the best fit for their specific needs?
Well, that's very personal. I think it really depends upon your way of life, because it's like all cities. There's not one great neighborhood in one great place. And it also might be that different neighborhoods could be great for you at different times of your life. I started in the Marais, then I came to the 8th, then I came back to the Marais for another 6 years, and then I came back to the 8th. That corresponded to different times in my life and what I was looking for. So I would really say the same thing for our viewers today. What do you want to have in proximity so far as by foot? What do you want to have in proximity by metro or by taxi? Again, are you male or female? Are you, how security, of course, security, cleanliness. They are all different neighborhood to neighborhood. So it's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Could you provide us some guidance could you provide some guidance on the process of securing a mortgage in France as an American? Are there any particular challenges or benefits that are unique to the French system? We have many questions about that topic.
For sure. Definitely. It's, yeah. And I want to be also really realistic with our audience today. Financing is definitely more challenging than it is in the States. The difference is that in the United States, we are free to make our own decision. So in essence, if you want to run up your credit card, or if you want to obtain a loan that you're not going to be repaid, it's your own personal decision and it's your own personal responsibility. Okay. Over here in France, it's a bit different. Okay. So there's a few rules that a bank will look at. So as a general rule, not just for Americans, but a general, is that no larger than 1/3 of your monthly earnings should go towards your housing. So again, in the States, you look at your annual revenue. Here in France, it's a little bit more your monthly revenue that is considered. It's quite a funny thing. But so it should never be more than 30%. So again, if you're looking to obtain financing that is going to put you, if you're making 30,000 a month and you're looking seeking financing, there would be a repayment of 3,000 or 5,000. That's one case scenario. Or if you're looking for financing where your repayment would be 11, then that would be a different case scenario. So that's the first thing. It's how it's looked at. Okay. Then the second is how you as an American are going to be viewed over here by the French system. So one, due to FACTA, there's many banks that cannot work with you, that they cannot legally work with you. Okay, so today, for example, like Société Générale, they can't even open a new account for an American national. Okay, they can as an expat, but if you're like, it's a bit complicated. So that's one of the things also is who can even work with you. So there's a few banks that can give financing to Americans. But then it's also how your revenue is perceived. So being an entrepreneur or obtaining your revenue stream from more atypical sources. So for example, if it's for purely investment property and you have dividends, or that's going to be looked at one way. If you hold an actual salaried job, that's going to be considered a different way also. I would say, and it's not great to say, but we need to be honest, the more holdings you have, the easier it is to obtain financing. That's reassuring, definitely. So again, it's a case-by-case scenario, and that we look at in partnership with our key broker that we work with, we look at each file independently, because, you kind of have to pull up your skirt, you have to show it all.
Absolutely. We have a question from Sarah. She's asking if you have agents that specialize in other areas of France besides Paris.
So thank you, Sarah. Yes, we do. And, it was hard in 1 hour to go over the entire country. We do. We work specifically with partners in the south of France. We have a partner in Lille. We have a partner in Arles, in just near Saint-Tropez, in Nice. So yes, we do. And again, what we do is really follow the client and make sure then that we're working with the right people locally. So yes, so Sarah, maybe message me and see specifically where you're interested in, and I can let you know if we could help you there.
And a question from Lisa. I assume you do work with budgets lower than those that you showed, and in other neighborhoods as well?
For sure. Well, that's why I wanted to show you too, the 550,000. That's a very more reasonable budget. I guess, again, Lisa, we would have to look at your specific, again, what kind of budget are you looking at? And we would really be able to tell you if it's something that's feasible or not. If it's feasible on the market, we are happy to work with you.
The next question is for me, from Catherine. Will this recording be made available to attendees afterward? Of course, the answer is yes. There will be an article, there will be a replay. So stay tuned on frenchly.us. Another question, you mentioned the differences between France and the US already, but are there any common misunderstandings that you often see among American buyers? You must have stories.
Oh, there's so many, I don't even know what to say. Oh gosh. Okay, well, definitely it can be a little bit strange. It depends also where you're from in the United States. Myself being from California, we have standalone individual homes. Obviously, I know that in New York City, you were sometimes in buildings, so you actually have homeowners associations. Okay, but over here, typically, so in the south of France, you might have your own standalone home, but if you're in a city, you're in what's called a copropriété. So, you have an individual apartment in a building. So within that building, there are both building rules, building laws, and there's actually, building annual meetings. There's things that are voted upon. You can't just choose to make your own improvement in the common areas. Those have to be done all together. So again, I know for me specifically, coming from standalone homes in California, that was definitely different. Oh yeah, and people can choose or not what you have the right to do. It's a country of rules sometimes. And just the administration, the administration is tough.
Natalie would like to hear your thoughts about being in new construction, buying a new construction, and before the project is completed. Have you had experiences like that?
Okay, very interesting. That is a whole another niche. It's it's investment property. So I would love to speak to you about your specific case. So please do reach out to me after. for everyone to understand what we're discussing. So yeah, there's programs to obviously increase housing capabilities in France across the country, and specifically in some of these cities that are congested. So these projects are typically just out of the city. They can be really interesting investment projects. One, because there are some government credits to increasing the housing. So you can actually get, it can be a financially sound operation. Typically with these types of properties, you also have to engage to rent them out for a minimum number of years. Because basically you're saying you're helping increase the capacity in the country. So that's one case scenario. It's pretty rare to buy on a floor plan for your own personal usage right off the bat, is what I would say. Okay. But Frankie, maybe it would be interesting. I don't know if anyone has posed any questions about renovation and what that would look like over here, but I would be happy to maybe talk about that next if that's of interest to anyone.
We haven't had a question about that, but it would be interested that to mention, to discuss it a little bit and give us some insight.
Yeah, I think so too. Imagine that you fall in love with a property. It's in relatively good condition, for example, but the bathrooms need to be redone. You would like to change the kitchen. You would like to, again, add in a skylight. How would you do that from abroad? It's a very challenging question. Who do you trust? I think anywhere, if you bring just a random contractor in, you can come back a month later, nothing's changed, but you've paid, So how do you go about that? So one, already architects over here, there's two different types of architects. One, which is called DPLG, which means it's a structural architect. So it's a structural architect that comes with insurance and a certification, which is recognized by the government. So if ever you need to do something structural, so far as taking out a wall, or something that needs authorization from the city, such as a skylight, or changing, as there's something, or adding a mezzanine. Okay, these things require both building authorization, city authorization, and you want to ensure that they're done in the règle de l'art. So in conform. Okay, so you have that type of an architect, and then you have an interior designer, which if you just see the word architect, you're going to think that they're an architect, like a structural architect. And actually over here, architect can be used for an interior designer. So it's okay. You just need to really know what your needs are and make sure that you're working with the right people. So, an interior designer can also still oversee, obviously, an electrician. They can oversee, painting, changing a wall, adding in closets. So again, getting back to us, but that's one of the advantages of working with us, is that we have that network of trusted individuals, already just the trusted individuals, but then making sure that it's a match between level of budget, aesthetics, and who you're going to fit with.
Perfect. I like if you have the chance to take 4 or 5 more questions. So maybe with a shorter answer, is crypto accepted to buy real estate in France?
It's an up and coming topic. We have not done it yet. We've talked about it in the office that we want to get to there. It's not yet an accepted practice, but it's definitely, I think, where there will be opportunity.
Question from Eileen. I don't know if you're familiar with that market. How does the market in Paris compare to London for family with 1 child?
So when you say how does the market, so the property price or... Okay, well,
yeah, I guess so. I guess the market value and...
Okay, so less expensive in Paris for sure, both in cost per square foot and also in cost of living, hands down. And in addition to that, in the UK, you have a whole other system where you actually don't hold the property value title for life. You hold it for a certain number of years. It's like 99 years, and then you resell it. So it's a whole nother bag of worms.
Okay. Mark has a question, very specific question. I don't know if I think it's more intended for a lawyer, but maybe you have some ideas about the subject. In the US, unless otherwise specified, property transfers directly from parent to an heir. In the case of an American without French citizenship purchasing property in France, is that also the case, or are there other processes for property transfers?
Okay, that is a very good question. It is true that it's a notary, but I do have experience in that too. So it follows the same. So a property would go first to your children. If you don't have children, then it would go to your parents. But one of the things that we advise and that I do for myself also, and a notary can do this in conjunction with purchasing a property, is to put in place a local will. It is important, and it helps the process to know where your property would go in the case of death.
Very good. Can you talk about the rental market again in Paris, especially in terms of property investment? What kind of returns can an American investor expect from renting out a property in Paris?
Okay, so again, there's many case scenarios. If you're looking to generate revenue from a property, then you would be looking for it to be rented on a commercial basis frequently. So for example, you'd be looking maybe to do like Airbnb, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know that each property is zoned in a specific way. So if it's residential, then it cannot be commercial. Okay, so for example, if you have a residentially zoned apartment, you cannot legally rent it out every day on Airbnb because that would be considered a commercial activity. If it's your residence, it is accepted to rent it out, for example, 120 days a year. Or there's now a new form of contract, which is called a mobility, a bail de mobilité, which allows you to rent it out longer, but it's a bit complicated. So as an investor, it's a little bit more intricate to say how, what is the rate of return you can get on an apartment, because it does depend if it's commercially zoned, if it's not. I would say that the biggest investment value is going to come from wanting to cover obviously your costs of carrying, but then the value that's going to increase over time on the actual property.
Mm-hmm. Last question will be from Julie, a very bottom line oriented question. What is your fee structure?
That is a great question. Okay, so we charge between 1.5% and 2.5% of purchase price to take and charge the client. So that's a question of the budget.
Beautiful. Get ready to play that video, Melissa. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for attending this webinar. To conclude this, I want to say enlightening session. We have a special treat in store for you from Melissa. Here is a 2-minute video that beautifully encapsulates the charm, the elegance, and the spirit of this city we've been discussing today. Paris.
Okay, so I just want to make sure it plays, so give me a little second.
Sure. And I want to take the time to thank you all for being with us, and for you, Melissa, for your expertise, experience. It is great for American audience to know that there is a Melissa Regan in Paris, that you've been there for 25 years, that you are so much experience in the real estate. This is a real key that we are offering to the Frenchly audience today. Are you ready for the video?
I am. So bear with me. I'm not going to do a full screen because I don't want you to lose it. So I'm just going to do as is. Okay.
It's a special treat.
Frankie, is it moving?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Can I send the link? Oh, it's great. It's great. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe I can send it on the chat.
Absolutely. Let's do that and have a beautiful evening. And we were in live on YouTube on Frenchly, and you can join us on frenchly.us. If you don't receive our newsletter already, please subscribe. It's free, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, everyone.